Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello, my name is Emily. This is MacInnis Mama, where you'll find mostly bookish content like what you're watching today, but also some gardening content as I learn to grow food for my family. I've been really passionate lately about reading and growing food, and we are sitting in my beauty space today, so if you like beauty content, my main channel is focused on that and it's linked in my description box always. Today we are going to be doing a bit of a series update. So at the beginning of the year I did do a video, which I will link in the cards, of all of the series I'm in the middle of. Now my intention was to come back at the very beginning of July and do an update. However, I'm behind on all things YouTube, so we're doing that now, but it's going to be a little bit different than what I intended. So I was inspired to do this style of content by Abby Salter. I will have her linked down below. She does hers quarterly, and she's much better at being on top of her series than I am. I don't even quite remember the number of series that I was in the middle of at the beginning of the year. I won't be going through every single series in this video because I already did the ones that I have started in the past. So how today's video is going to work, I'm going to first tell you all the series that I've finished so far this year. So in the first almost 8 full months of the year, I've only finished a couple of series, but I'm going to tell you about them. Secondly, I'm going to tell you about all of the series I have started this year, which is more than I ever have. I don't know how this has happened, but I'm going to tell you about all of them. And thirdly, I'm going to tell you which series I only have one book left. So hopefully I could finish at least a few of those before the end of the year. I would love to have finished more than 10 series by the end of the year, and stay tuned for more series related content or reading vlogs, things like that, as a motivator for me to actually get through those things. So this might be a bit of a longer video. I'm hoping I won't ramble too much. So let's just hop right in with the series that I have actually finished so far this year. Well, firstly, again, I don't remember the number of series I was in the middle of at the beginning of the year, but I'm now at 37. And yes, that is too many series for me to remember all of the characters and the plots, and I'm going to have to do a lot of rereading of the first book. Some series I've only read the first book and then ignored it for 2 years, so I will have to reread those. But I've only finished 3 series this year. First was the Lunar Chronicles. So I picked up Cinder in like 2018, I think, and I only read like a book a year. So I finally finished that dang series. This is a YA sci-fi retelling. Cinder follows a cyborg who is much like Cinderella, with the stepsisters and the stepmom who's really mean to her, stumbles into the ball with the prince type of thing, but it's very futuristic. Overall, the series was really fun. I am glad that I read it through the library. I'm glad I didn't buy them. My favorite in the series was Scarlet. Both Cress and Winter seemed entirely too long. They were like 800-page books, so long, and by the end of the series, I didn't even feel like everything had been resolved. Like, that book was so long, and yet still didn't feel like enough happened to wrap up the series. Secondly, I finished the Six of Crows duology. It took me 500 years to pick up Crooked Kingdom, but I finally did during a mini TBR Star Hop round as a book over 500 pages or something. I gave Six of Crows 5 stars and Crooked Kingdom 4 stars. I know people say that there are like plot holes or something in Six of Crows. I honestly didn't notice those when I read it a long time ago, but I found myself enjoying Six of Crows more than Crooked Kingdom because the scope was much bigger. With many fantasies, the first book has a smaller scope and is usually in one town or one country type of thing, and then gets bigger as the series goes on, and this almost had the opposite. So there's this big heist happening in Six of Crows, And there's like travel and they're going places and meeting new people and things like that. But Crooked Kingdom is very isolated in just their town, and I liked that less. And thirdly, I started and finished the Throne of Glass series in 2022. It was my first time reading it. I can't believe that I didn't read these as they were coming out. I absolutely loved the series. Absolutely loved it. I think every book got 4 or 5 stars from me. I definitely have my favorites in the series. It was just such a fun ride. I loved how it started with the Assassin's Blade. You gotta start with the Assassin's Blade, not Throne of Glass. Don't do it. I love how the Assassin's Blade, Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight have this very like YA fantasy feel, but I still loved it even though I've taken a big step back from YA fantasy. And then as the series goes on, I feel like those who were of the age when Throne of Glass came out and was reading it as they were growing up, like the books got older with you, and I loved that because Kingdom of Ash felt very much like a new adult or younger side of adult fantasy book, and I had the best time reading that for the first time. That was a great time. I read a book a month and finished it in August, and I really enjoyed it. So those were the 3 series I finished this year. Now let's talk about the 2 mini-series I've started so far this year. So I started the Dandelion Dynasty for Stephanie Bookverse's channel Read Along, but then I fell off. Those books are so huge. I only read The Grace of Kings and I didn't love it. I gave it like a 2.5 stars. Now, I know that everyone says, no, you need to, it's almost like The Grace of Kings is a prequel, and then the rest is this amazing, epic, wonderful adult fantasy book series. I get it. I will continue. But I had the Wall of Storms out from the library 2 separate times and just never picked it up because I didn't enjoy The Grace of Kings. And even knowing that everyone says push through, the Wall of Storms is incredible, I just can't pick it up right now. It's like 850 pages of dense political Chinese historical fantasy, and I don't know. I'm scared of it, honestly. It's intimidating. Then I have the Wayward Children series, which is a portal fantasy. It's more adult and dark than I thought. I have read Every Heart a Doorway and Down Among the Sticks and Bones, so there's a lot to go, but I have read 2 of those books. They're great for readathons, and I do hope to continue. I need to get through this a lot faster, don't I? The Ravenhood series by Kate Stewart. I read both Flock and Exodus, and I'm currently reading The Finish Line. I'm actually reading that for a reading vlog that you will see very shortly. So that will be a series finished, and we'll be up to 4 for the year. That will feel good. I can't tell you anything about that series beyond it's a romantic suspense. It is available on KU, though I did buy the paperbacks. It is spicy. And everything else I could say is a spoiler. Trust me, go read the series if you think you would enjoy romantic suspense, spice. It's a bit dark. I'm really enjoying the series. The Faithful and the Fallen series by John Gwynne. I've read Malice and Valor, and I hope to pick up Ruin this month. However, my mom was itching to read it first because she's a much faster reader than me. And after I read Malice, I gave it to her, and then I made her wait until I finished Valor and then gave that to her, and then she was like, how fast are you really gonna read Ruin? Because I need it. So she's reading that currently. I do hope to get to that before the end of August, and then I would only have Wrath left. It's a 4-book series, epic, high fantasy, kind of grimdark, involves a prophecy. Loving it. Did I give Malice 4 stars or 5 stars? It was more like a 4.5 star. Valor 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. So excited to continue, and I that will be done by the end of the year, because I've heard the ending of Ruin, there is no way you can't pick up Wrath pretty much immediately afterwards. Then I picked up the Hunted series by Ivy Smoke for part of my Aurelium character or something. I needed something with Hunted in the title or series. I read Temptation, which is book 1. Awful. Awful. And so technically I would call this a series I started and DNF'd. However, I do follow along with TBR Star Hop's monthly rolls. And even if it's a series that you don't want to continue, the name goes in the wormhole jar. So I keep it on my spreadsheet for that reason, but I'm not going to be picking these books up on my own volition. The writing was horrible. The characters were horrible. My voice is horrible. The spicy scene saved it. I gave it a 3 for the spice, but really it was like a 2-star. It was painful, honestly. But it's on here for TBR Star Hop. Then I read The Bear and the Nightingale, the first book in the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden. I loved it, gave it 5 stars. Adult fantasy, Russian folklore inspired, shorter books as well. I loved the lyrical writing, and will definitely pick up, what's the next book called? The Girl in the Tower, when the weather cools down. I'm thinking like fall into winter. I will finish out this series because it's definitely cold weather vibes. Then I started The Lord of the Rings. I did read The Hobbit, which was a reread for me. We read it for part of the Patreon buddy reads for Stephanie Bookverse. I have never read the Lord of the Rings books. I've only watched the movies. I know, fake fantasy fan over here, but I'm also not in the biggest rush to pick them up. I do own them. I've owned them for a century, it feels like. But now it's officially on my series to finish list because I picked up The Hobbit again. Also intimidating. Then I read The Awakening, the first book in the Zodiac Academy. I did not love it. Everyone says you need to kind of force your way through the first 3 books, which is intimidating when there's like, it's an 8-book series, I think. But Rachel from Raven-Haired Reader, Hannah from Hannah's Recent Reads, binged the series and loved it for the most part. And so I will continue. I have bought the second book, Ruthless Fae, and I do plan on doing a vlog involving that book in particular, but I just haven't continued yet. Then I read Desperate Measures, the first book in the Wicked Villains series by Katie Robert. These are short, spicy novella, no plot really. I mean, there's a little bit of a plot, but not much plot. And they are Disney retelling. They're basically like erotica. The next few are spicy books, like The Wicked Villains, because I think this was around the time of the 72 Hours in the Smut Den. So then I started the Mindfuck series by S.T. Abbey. I only read the first one, and I really should continue because these are very short, under 200 pages. You can actually buy them as a bind up, and it looks like a regular sized book, I'm pretty sure. So I read The Risk and really enjoyed it. It's a female serial killer dating the FBI agent that is working like her case without knowing that he is in bed with the killer he's trying to find. And there's like a revenge plot and stuff. I am excited to continue that one. And then I picked up Brutal Prince, the first book in the Brutal Birthright series by Sophie Lark. My first Sophie Lark book, and I really loved it. This is mafia romance, my first mafia romance. I really want to get more into my Kindle for starters, but specifically like mafia romances, serial killer, like all the dark stuff. I want to read more of that. I don't know what that says about me, but that I want to experiment more with things like that. I really loved The Brutal Prince. I gave it 4 stars. We have a very strong heroine in that. And the next book is a captor captive something. Still mafia related, obviously. So I'm excited to continue. Then I've read both Red Queen and Cruel Crown, the novellas following book 1 for the Red Queen series. Not loving it, not excited to continue. I was doing that for the read along with Rise Reading Corner and Marissa from Genre Garden, and even they stopped doing live shows because Marissa wasn't enjoying them. It's just a very older YA fantasy, very cliche. I've seen it again and again. Speaking of that, I also started the Air Awakened series by Elise Kova, and those two are very, very similar. I've also read the first 2 books in that series as well. That one is available on KU. I also started the Plated Prisoner series by Raven Kennedy for following along with Sahar's fantasy romance book club, which I've also fallen off of. I should have finished the series by now. However, it's been picked up to be traditionally published in the UK, I believe, so KU has removed it from the KU subscription, so I will need to buy the paperbacks, which I do own Guild in a paperback because I won that in a giveaway, and I do want to own it, but it's not in the budget right now. So I've read Guild and Glint, so I have technically 3 more to go. 2 are already out. This is a King Midas fantasy romance series, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm just bummed that it's no longer on KU. We're nearing the end, I promise. I read A Dead Djinn in Cairo, which is a fantastical mystery. The first novella in the Dead Djinn universe. There are 3 novellas and 1 full-length novel. I'm excited to continue that. I've read volumes 1 and 2 of the Monstrous series, a steampunk, fantasy, horror, adult graphic novel series. It's very confusing. I'm still confused 2 volumes in. Again, mini TBR Starhop forced me to start the Ice Planet Barbarian series, and I was very shocked to discover I really enjoyed it. There's actually world building, plot. Who knew? I'm actually excited to continue that one. Alien romance? Anyways, I read Lore Olympus Volume 1 and didn't love it as much as I was expecting. There's going to be 4 volumes. I don't know if they're all out. This was a webtoons, now published in a bind-up. Fantasy romance, Hades and Persephone retelling, and I don't have a great understanding on all of the Greek gods and goddesses and their relationships to each other, and that definitely affected my enjoyment because there's not a ton of world building. You're just supposed to know the gods and who like their parents are and who's married to who and like all those things and their personalities, and I didn't know that going in, so yeah, that definitely hindered my enjoyment. Is that the last one? That's the last series I started. Wow, how many was that? I just chatted about 18 series I started, technically 19 if I included Throne of Glass, but I started and finished Throne of Glass. Wow. That's a lot. Okay, quickly, like I said, this video is longer than I had wanted it to be. Let's have a look through my spreadsheet at which series I only have 1 more book left before I'm done. So Saga, the graphic novel series, technically I'm caught up, but the next volume is supposed to be released, last I checked, according to my spreadsheet, which is not necessarily up to date, is supposed to come out in October. So if I could, get my hands on that and read it, then that will be only one, then I'll have completed that series once again. I need to read The Assassin's Quest to complete the Farseer trilogy. Now I do want to then continue on with the Realm of the Elderlings and move on to the Mad Ship trilogy, right? But technically that will have finished a trilogy. Oh boy, what else? else? Ooh, The Blood and Ash. I have to read The War of Two Queens to be caught up on that. I liked From Blood and Ash, didn't so much like A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire or The Crown of Gilded Bones, so I don't know if I really want to prioritize that. I need to read The Hero of Ages to complete the Mistborn series for the first time, which I desperately need to do because I've loved both the Final Empire and The Well of Ascension. I gave The Final Empire 5 stars, The Well of Ascension 4 stars, but still really enjoyed it. I need to read Hook, Line, and Sinker to finish out the Ballinger Sister duet by Tessa Bailey. I need to finish The Finish Line to finish the Ravenhood series, which I'm currently reading, so that will be good. And is that it? Oh boy, that does not set me up for success, does it? That is not going to finish out 10 series before the end of the year, so I need to get my butt in gear. Clearly I'm overwhelmed with the amount of series I'm in the middle of. I don't know how this has happened beyond just wanting to participate in book clubs and also Patreon buddy reads that tend to be the first in series, and then we're kind of left to our own devices to continue them, which I'm not good at doing because I don't read 30 books in a month. So I'm getting behind, falling behind these things rather quickly. But I have read a lot of sequels this year as well. But I need to focus. If I truly have a goal of finishing 10 series this year, I need to buckle down and get them done because I only have 4 months to do it. Yikes. Okay. This video has been longer than intended, as are most of my videos, but that is my mid-year series update. Let me know in the comments down below if you know how many series you're in the middle of. Are you bad at continuing series like I am, or are you someone who binges series? I think if it weren't for BookTube, Bookstagram, and like me getting distracted by all the cool new series, I enjoy series more when I can read one per month. Not necessarily like read the whole series back to back to back, but like staying within the world and the characters like month to month. And I've gotten away from that. So maybe I can be better with that in the future once I get this number lower. 37 series is way too much for my brain to handle. There are a lot of series here that some I didn't even mention today that I would need to reread the books I've already read to know what the heck is going on to continue to finish them. And that's not what I want to happen, but that's where we're at right now. So I'm gonna stop rambling. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up so that I know, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.